We would eat the strawberries, you know. We're supposed to be playing, but we're eating while we're playing.
Gene, you had mentioned a baseball field at the end of Bleak Street?
Yeah, that's where the old boys baseball team, it was at the top of Bleak Street, Bleak and Hudson. Because in the old days, Hudson really wasn't there. It stopped up at the top. So when it opened up, then it connected to Brooklyn and the other streets. But yeah, they played ball there, and I know Murph Snore, who used to be the water superintendent here during my time as working here as the tax collector and finance officer, and he played softball up there. Yeah.
They had Ducky's Pond.
And then there was a pond.
A little pond up there.
That on the next side that was called Ducky's Pond, and there was a farm next to the railroad. But all of that property was, when they built the high school, was all, you know, bought up by the school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a memory of Feldbaum's resort, summer resort, where the...
That's before my time.
No,
Well,
that I don't remember.
that's where a lot of that land came from. That was Feldbaum's back in the 20s. Yes.
Oh, yeah? I always thought the resort was on Main Street. That was the other resort.
Talk about the one in Helmetta. That's
Oh, there's several of them around here. Yeah, Feldbaum's is basically where Feldbaum Place comes in, was the road to their place.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, I
And-
didn't know that. I just remember the old farm and the woman that lived there.
There was a some kind of resort down where Schweitzer's is, turn of the century. Semi-clothed people supposedly running around down there, and
Okay.
most of us know Bernard McFadden down in
That was in
Alcott.
Helmetta.
Yeah, right.
Bad, right?
He actually straddled 3 towns there, I think Helmetta, Monroe, and Spotswood with his property.
Big resort.
But I remember the old railroad station, and I remember that when I was young and living at 57 Bleak Street, my aunt and my cousins used to come from Long Island for the weekend, and they would get off and walk up the tracks to where we lived. So that was a commuter train then.
While you're on this station in Feldbaum's, when I got out of the service and got married, 57, we rented the apartment upstairs over at Benny's Tavern. It was like $75 a month. And I bought the house off of Mrs. Serpil. Our payment was only like $71 a month, so it was a little cheaper.
Well, the Sear family was instrumental in beginning the Polish-American Citizens Club that was located on Main Street. And
Way back, yeah.
way back. And their 2 sons were in the provision business. And,
Provision, the lunch meat.
right, and delivery to the local stores. That was before we knew about supermarkets in Spotswood.
Yeah, and her daughter married Mortis, who had the
That's
other
right.
store there in the corner
That's
of
right. We
Cousins.
had a small, I guess it was
Deli.
deli,
Yeah.
right.
Well, we had 2 delis. We had Polanski's right there, too.
Where was that?
Competitors. Polanski's Deli.
I'm not familiar with that one. Where is it?
That's
Where was it?
where there used to be
Was it a little,
delivered.
a little storefront there?
Yeah, Polanski's.
Was it right next to the
The
sheriff's
building's still there.
driveway?
Yeah, who owns it? Al Becker owns it now, correct, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, oh, that was Polanski's Deli?
yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
There used to be a field there from my house on Main Street, next to Adams Cleaners. They built there alongside of us. All the field, we played ball. Garner Bennett was across the Main Street. Once in a while, you have to go chase the ponies and horses out, but they got out. Good old days.
Hey,
You could
Garner,
ride your bicycle on Main Street for 15, 20 minutes, no cars.
I used to ride my bike down Polonia and then cut through Serp's yard, come back out to Main Street. I noticed they got rid of that driveway. There's no driveway on Polonia
There
anymore.
was a farm way back there, remember? Did they tell you about that farm?
Peter Orzelek.
Orzak's farm,
Yes,
was
that-
across the railroad.
I remember that. There's a right-of-way right next to my property that
Right-of-way.
used to go to that.
Next to your
Yeah,
property.
between me and the apartments there, yes.
Is it still there right away?
Yeah, that's still legally a right-of-way.
My home in Massachusetts was an older town. It goes way back to the 1700s. When we came to Spotswood, we moved into Clover Estates, and that was in the 60s, and I believe Clover Estates started around 1950 approximately.
A little later than that, probably 55.
58, 59, we're not even sure.
56, 57, that range.
In the 50s somewhere, right? And all new homes, good sized property. On my street that I lived, there was probably about 20, 30 children on my street, Kane Avenue, and we really enjoyed it because, it was even especially convenient for me because my office was about 10 minutes from my home, and there was no stop signs, there was no traffic lights, it was just one straight run all the way into South Brunswick. All farmlands on both sides of Cranberry Road. Today, obviously, that's changed quite a bit. A lot of development's going up, industrial, commercial, but I'm still living in the same house that I did almost 50 years ago. And we enjoy it. And we've had nice neighbors over the years. Okay, we still continue. Not all the same people there, but people that come and go, but they've been fortunate. They're very friendly neighbors.
Stephen Eggles?
Stephen Eggles was one. Yeah, they're not there anymore. They moved. But the people that took their place are very friendly with us.
I used to go to Boy Scout meetings at Roy. Stephen Eggles, he was my troop leader for a while.
It was convenient. The schools were so close to where I lived, Clover Estates. When I lived in Massachusetts, I had to walk 2 miles to the high school. Nobody.
In fact, these people can tell you about who Kane Avenue is named after. You guys want to tell them a little
Russell
about
Kane?
Uncle Russ? Yeah.
Well, I was up in the development, L&L Development.
He was ex-mayor.
He named it there when he was the mayor, I think.
Right.
He wasn't the ex-mayor yet, no.
Right.
And next to the right is Erdel Avenue. Erdel Avenue was named after one of the residents who worked for the municipality, Joe Erdel.
He was the borough engineer.
Or engineer, okay.
Right.
Jensen Avenue was named after my father.
I was going to get there, yeah. No, that's...
I have Jensen Avenues in East Brunswick and Sayreville. So they really got around.
They're all named after your
Got
father?
around. No, just Spotswood.
Just Spotswood, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, who was the other one there? Irving was Latour, was named
That was
after, right?
all Barbara was
Would have been his daughter, yes.
Mady was his wife.
Mady was the wife. Yeah.
What did Mady do? She got the longest road in town there, right? That goes all the way from Summerhill practically to Adirondack, or past Adirondack.
Yeah, right.
Well, there wasn't very much to do when you were growing up in a small town like this, and the only transportation was the Rosemeyer Weber bus that went between Janesburg and South River. Then you had to take another bus into New Brunswick. But I fondly remember the community house where a lot of activities, took place. And basically the library in front was a good place to go and take 8 or 9 books out a week and tell the librarian that the book, if it wasn't in your age bracket, was really for your mother.
Yeah.
To get away with that. But I was in the Girl Scouts, and I fondly remember Carrie Rogers and June Rabel, my scout leaders.
Yeah, she lived down the street from me on Main Street.
Right. And, there wasn't as much recreation as when Mr. Cardasian came, and Immaculate had the gym to offer. It was just the community house, that Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts went to.
I think the Rec Commission was chartered about 48 or 49, so.
Oh, yeah.
And then after World War II, life, pretty much became the way we know it now. A lot of modern
Right.
ideas came along.
Right, and the building of the houses off of Valete Street. I don't know what name Mr. Sadowski built all those homes.
Oh, is that who Sadowski is named after? Okay, he was the builder?
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Right,
He built an old bridge also.
What was his first name? Just so I know.
Henry.
Henry Sadowski, okay.
right,
Yeah, that's right.
right. And one of his daughter, he had one daughter and a son. One street was named after his daughter Dorothy.
Dorothy, okay.
And she lived on the corner of Valete and Dorothy, and she was married to a Spotswood special officer,
Oh, Geipel.
Not Raymond.
No.
Raymond was
He worked
in
in the
my
mill. He
class.
worked in the mill.
It was Robert
Bob.
Geipel, Bob Geipel.
Was Bob.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was a special officer with Mr. Goldsmith, and his friend Sharp.
There's a Fred Sharp I've seen in here,
Right.
police department.
They were two big fellas that were taking care, after hours, were taking care of any of the people that got out of hand at night. And
Yeah,
of course,
well-
Mr. Goldsmith did the ticketing. He would ticket people for parking on the wrong side of the wrong way on the street. That was to have to make up, I guess, for their quota of tickets.
The listing of all the old business buildings that were there back in, I guess, up to 1912 or so.
That starts in 12 and goes on up through most of the century. Yeah.
I don't, the only one I really recognize there is the Methodist Church. Okay, I guess probably most of them are non-existent today, but the Methodist Church is still there. It was originally the Spotswood Methodist Church, then, and that was put up as a result. I believe the church was originally in East Brunswick. There was a fire, and they moved to Spotswood, and then today it's, the name is Trinity United Methodist Church. It's still there, still active, and I was a member of that church for many years.
The West End Hotel, people tell me, was the first stop on a stagecoach ride from New York to Philadelphia. You took your ferry across to South Amboy or whatever, then took the stage down here, and I guess by that point you were beat up enough you needed to take a day's rest. So they stopped here in Spotswood.
Gene, you had mentioned going to South River High School. Did Spotswood always go to South River, or they in the earlier days go to New Brunswick, or is it always South River to your knowledge?
Just south.
It was South
Just-
River. My father went to Catholic school in South Amboy, but after that, I'm sure some of my aunts went to South River High School too.
Mm-hmm.
But I know my father actually took the train into South Amboy to go to school.
Now, you mentioned your maiden name is Szymanski. Now, how long has the family been in Spotswood?
It's got to be over 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming probably at that time, the population in town might have only been 800 people.
Oh,
Yes.
very low population.
We also went to vocational school in New Brunswick when the people went to, so I went there for a few years.
The one next to
And
St. Peter's.
Rayfield bus would take us there. The father was doing the drive, and I remember him.
Who were some of the original families that you could remember that have been in town over 100 years, such as your family?
Well,
The Lataws and families
Well,
like that? DeVoe?
there would be on Main Street, there was Jolly, the Jolly family. There was Applegate. And there was,
Applegate the florist.
yeah, there was DeVoe's. Let's see. Along, thinking of the people that were involved in volunteering with my father, like Mr. Schellenberger, Mr. Linke, all these people. I'm not sure how long they were here, but they were here a very long time.
You mentioned earlier, could you give us some insight into your friendship of Mr. Ekman?
Oh,
On a personal note?
that's because I was involved, or have been involved, with the Democratic organization since coming back from Newport, Rhode Island in the 50s. So during that time, yes, his father kept us going, kept us active, and in 1967, even though this is a nonpartisan form of government, three changes were made, and new people came, and that was Donald Brundage, Patrick DiStefano Sr., and Nathan Dubester. Right. And that's when I was approached by Mr. Dubester to leave my job at the, it was then the Spokesman newspaper, and I was working on Edgeboro Road. And I said I would just be happy if he just named me to a committee of any kind, in town. and he said that he thought that I would do well in the position in which I was appointed. That was the tax collector. And when I came to the building, Mr. Goldsmith, the borough clerk, took me under his wing and taught me all about Spotswood's government and how it operated, and all about ordinances and licenses and everything. So I really got to learn the history of government from him, and as well as my own position. I took the very first courses I could at Rutgers and got my certificate, and just continued all the education all the years that I was here.
Now, when you first started working, was it in the old municipal building, or was it in the municipal building on Main Street, which?
No, it would be this one
This
here
one here,
on
okay.
Mott Place.
Okay.
And my office was way in the back. It had to collect the taxes
When they took down.
the one they took
Yeah.
down, yes. They had a money changer and a piece of wood, which I've kept. And it had separators for the dollars. And that's how you collected the money until we renovated.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we renovated the front part of the building, and everything was done by hand in the books. But we put in an NCR recording machine, and we built a drawer underneath a counter, and there was cash, and there was an old safe that was here that you could keep the money in. So we began to become more modern at that
Before
time.
computers, you were.
Oh, yes, before computers, right.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, you'll be glad to know we found in the 1912 minutes of the town, they actually put in an actual ballot of how people voted for president. Woodrow Wilson got 97 here in Spotswood, Roosevelt got 33, and Taft got 14.
Well, so you see
So
how the town has votes ever since that day, right, practically.
Yeah, this has been working class people here, and maybe some of the rich people in the other towns, but no, we never quite went that way here. We're talking to former Spotswood Mayor Joe Spicuzzo and current Spotswood Councilwoman Marge Drodes.
One of my earliest memories is reading the paper, and Joe had actually pulled his car onto the railroad tracks because they wouldn't upgrade a crossing. Was it by Appleby School?
No, it was by Peter J. Schweitzer, the main entrance into Peter J. Schweitzer. And you know what happened that day when I did that? There was a bad weather forecast, and they were calling for a hurricane. And the kids were out of school because of the hurricane prediction. And it turned out to be a gorgeous day. And naturally, all the kids were busy playing. There was two 12-year-old girls from East Brunswick, and they were riding their bicycles, and one of the tires of one of the bicycles got caught between the railroad ties and the pavement, and unfortunately, one of the girls fell off her bicycle, and a car went by, and she got killed. And I was trying to have that by Conrail fix that crossing for many years. So I went to the wake, and I was feeling so bad, and I was sitting in my office in the old Spotswood Municipal Building, and heard the railroad train coming down. So I said, I grabbed a cop. I think it was Tommy Riley. I grabbed a cop and says, follow me. And I went to the railroad crossing. I put my car in the railroad tracks, and I said, I'm not going to let the train cross Spotswood property until you fix this damn crossing. So it made national headlines. Spotswood was on a national map, but we got it done.
Wow. I did not know the story behind. I don't remember that the girl got killed, but that just illustrates standing up for your beliefs as a politician.
No.
And I guess I skipped over my political career. Actually, I've been involved with the schools and the town for a long time. When my son started school in 1988, at Appleby School, there was a dilapidated playground. It was really run down. There was one swing set, one slide, and one of those little slides where they all had to climb up and then you go down, and potential for danger. So what we decided to do was to form a committee, the Playground Committee, Playground for Appleby Youth Play Committee. And we, over 5 days, we contracted with a Robert Leathers and Associates architectural firm. And over 5 days in June of 1991, and I brought the plaque here today, we built a playground. We used 1,300 community volunteers. We set up, it wasn't round the clock, but it was from very early in the morning to very late at night. We fed all the volunteers. We had child care on site. We had donated materials. We raised $85,000 with 30 fundraisers over 2 years, and built this playground, which lasted until last year, when they had to tear it down because it didn't meet the safety regulations. The laws had changed at the state level. But for 18 years, it provided much joy to the Spotswood community. And it was similar to an old-fashioned barn raising, where you all get together and raise this structure up. And it was a fabulous time in our town because of so many volunteers. And what I did was turn to Papa Joe. We had no money, absolutely no money. We started with nothing. I mean, even the PTA wasn't really on board with us. It was just a group of us mothers. And we needed, for the dedication ceremony, Middlesex County had a wonderful stage that has, sound system. And so we really wanted to dedicate the playground in style. And I turned to Joe for the stage to be donated, and he arranged that. And the other thing I asked him for was drainage piping, because the school had a slope that we just needed to make sure that the water was diverted from the playground. And of course, he donated that. He also arranged, I think, for the Marines to come and help dig the trench. I mean, it was just fabulous time, wonderful memories of that time. And I remember coming home to my husband, Gary, and saying, that's one of the best things I've ever been involved with. And to this day, my kids have fond memories of us banging nails. And the only injury on that playground, and I don't know how many square feet it was, maybe 5,000 square feet, whatever it was the principal of the high school, John Orlick, who has since passed. He actually was a carpenter on the side, and he was putting up this twisty slide, and he hit his hand, and he had to get stitches. So it was done in a safe way too. So it was really a wonderful experience.
One of the things I remember about the construction, we were working till late at night.
Yes.
And we had to get portable lights. And
Yeah.
I get those portable lights donated from a construction
That's right.
firm of mine. And we had such a wonderful job doing that.
Yes, we did. So,
I remember back in 1976 when the lake was in terrible shape. And I tried to get Frank Thompson, a congressman at the time, to try to give the money for Spotswood to try to drain the lake and dredge it out and things like that. But unfortunately, he was willing to do that. But unfortunately, the lake was so polluted because Monroe, Jamesburg, Halmetta was dumping raw sewage into the lake. and they wouldn't invest money in the lake at that time. Luckily, my son Charlie is heading up a lake cleanup, and I've been in touch with Congressman Pallone and see if I can get that done. I think that the lake is a focal point in town.
Absolutely.
And when I was a kid, my father died when I was 12 years old, but I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, my father came from Jamesburg. I lived in Franklin Township in Somerset County, but I remember driving to Spotswood and seeing the lake just so crowded with people and kids having such a good time in the lake. And I always said to my father, "Can we stop there one time?" And he always said no, but because we had our own Jamesburg lake at the time.
That's right.
But I remember that there was actually summer bungalows and Spotswood that people came on vacation just to swim in that lake.
Birchall School. Do you remember Birchall School?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went there.
I wasn't there, but I remember.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think Marianne went to Birchall School.
Okay, well, Birchall School was just torn down. We actually sold the land, and it was torn down. But that was a brick structure that was on Main Street, and it was, I think, dedicated in the early 1900s. And I'm sure the Centennial Committee knows better than me what year. And that, I remember my first kiss was under the fire escape at Birchall School.
March.
Now, can you believe that? You're the first to know this. So I went to school there. I was telling Joe before we started taping that because the population in town exploded, I guess around 55, 57, the early 60s, the families usually had 4, 5, 6 kids. And so the town actually subleased a lot of space to have classes in. And my kindergarten class with Mrs. Ross, who was such a wonderful teacher, was at the firehouse. That's where they had my kindergarten class was. It was in the firehouse because they sublet some space in there. My 4th grade was actually in the community house, which also housed our police department, our library, over the years, and 5th and 6th grade we leased the annex in Immaculate Conception, and I went to school in Immaculate Conception.
Speaking of people that aren't here anymore, he's here, but he isn't here right now.